where you say love is the recognition of our shared being. That's correct, right? Okay, so if that is so, then that means in that recognition we love everyone and everything if we remain in that recognition.
Yes, it doesn't necessarily mean we like everybody.
Right, I understand that.
You don't have to like everyone.
I understand that difference.
Yeah.
I do,
yeah.
yes, okay. My question is, so if we assume that we are in that recognition, we manage to more or less remain in it and are in that, well, state, if it is, of loving everyone and everything, how does falling in love with someone come into that equation? I mean, what is it that makes us fall in love with someone and not with someone else? What is that difference, I guess?
When you've been in love with someone and you taste the quality of the love that you share, and then you take another friendship where you're not in love with the person, but you love them deeply, and you compare these two different, compare the love, not the expressions, the two different expressions, but the actual love itself. Is there a difference?
I don't think that there is a difference, no. And I don't think that that's so much my question, if it's a different quality. The question really is more, what mechanism is behind it that actually makes that happen?
That makes the falling in love?
Yes, as opposed to just recognizing your shared being with anybody and experiencing that as love, if you will. What is going on that happens? I mean, I don't know if you have an answer to that in that way, or if I'm phrasing my question properly.
Well, falling in love is usually associated with some kind of physical attraction.
Yes.
Physical, sexual attraction. But that's really, that's not really about falling in love. That's just one particular expression. That's one particular way that being in love with someone can be shared and celebrated and expressed. But it's quite possible to fall in love with someone and not feel any physical attraction to them.
Yes.
It's quite possible to fall in love with a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've experienced that, where you just you fall in love with a stranger. No physical attraction at all. You don't want anything from them apart from this passing moment. You know you're never going to see them again. But there's something about your connection where you just feel in love with that being for that moment.
Yes.
So falling in love, I would separate it in your mind from the physical or sexual intimacy that very often accompanies it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one possible outcome, one possible expression. And you see, I mean, all friendship is really falling in love. Isn't that what friendship is? When you feel friendship with someone, you love that person to a greater or lesser extent. It may not have the full intensity of love that you feel with someone that you're very intimate with and you feel completely in love with, but nevertheless, all friendships to a greater or lesser degree, even the friendship with a stranger, someone you just pay at the checkout, there is a moment of friendship. It is a degree of love. It is the same love. It is, you haven't completely fallen into love together. You haven't completely merged. There is still some sense of separation. But even the smile at the checkout person or the cab driver or the homeless person that we give $5 to, in that moment, there is a momentary collapse of the sense of separation, or at least a diminishing of the sense of separation. And you feel you come close. Okay, maybe you don't come all the way close, the complete falling in love where we feel utterly united with the other. But nevertheless, there is a collapse of the sense of separation. Yes. And what we call falling in love is usually the full collapse, the full merging together. But actually, all friendship is on that same spectrum. All friendship is, to a greater or lesser degree, the collapse of the sense of separation, everything, whatever it is that separates us. And the more that sense of separation dissolves, the closer we feel we come, until when there is a complete collapse of everything that separates us, we say we are in love, we have merged, we feel we are one, we feel we're the same being. But actually, that feeling of being the same being is also the content of our more ordinary friendships, although it is not quite so fully felt. It is shaded still, veiled still by a degree of separation. You see, even when you smile at someone, when you smile at someone, it's almost impossible to feel separate from someone you smile at. So what is a smile? It's the way the body expresses a momentary collapse of the sense of separation. In other words, it's a little moment of lovemaking. It's not the full experience, but nevertheless it is an expression at a physical level of the recognition of friendship. That is the recognition of our shared being. And the minute we feel it, the minute we feel this shared being, the body relaxes. One of the ways that relaxation is expressed is through smiling, or through a hug, or even shaking hands. It's very difficult even to shake hands with someone unless you're Donald Trump that you really dislike. You remember all those images at the beginning of the presidency with his awkward... But actually, even when you shake hands, I felt it this afternoon with I was playing tennis and it was the last session we had, so I just shook his hand and thanked him and wished him the best. He's moving on and there was such a sweet meeting when we shook hands. It was like a little merging, so much was said in our handshake. I didn't know him well enough to give him a big hug. It was just a formal English handshake, but so much sweetness was conveyed in it. It was like a little lovemaking, a little expression of the recognition that underneath all our thoughts and our feelings and our activities, in that moment it was a recognition of our shared being. And we both felt it. So what we conventionally call falling in love is when there is this full dissolution of thoughts and feelings and the body, where there's a complete collapse of the sense of separation. It's not a partial collapse, it's a full collapse. And the impulse, therefore, with these two people is to come together physically, because that is a way of expressing this absence of the sense of separation. It's just a natural, it's the same impulse when we hug someone. It's just a way of expressing the absence of distance. It's a way. It's a little mini. It's our two bodies just merging briefly to express this feeling. We are one. We share our being.
I guess, I mean, that makes complete sense what you're saying, and thank you for that. I guess the part I'm still trying to well, get an answer on is probably not the right way to say it, but is, I mean, if it's, since we all share the same being with everybody, essentially, and yet at the same time, some people come along and it seems completely out of your control. I mean, they're no more the same being as you in that moment than anybody else, but yet there's such a different, uncontrollable dynamic.
Yes.
Why is that? According to this teaching, anyway.
When we feel this quality of friendship with a cab driver or a tennis coach, although we feel our shared being, there's just a very small part of our life, our external life, our thoughts, activities. We only share a very small part of our objective experience. We chat with the cab driver on the way to SFO for 15 minutes about his family or so. Although this shared being is still felt, it impacts only a small part of us, and we don't sense that it has the potential to impact anymore. It's just a casual meeting. But there are some people that we meet and we have this intuition that if we were to come together and express this shared being, that every part of our body and mind would be touched by the relationship, that no part of us would remain unseen or closed. So that kind of relationship has a much greater power to permeate every aspect of our lives. So there is the shared being is expressed intellectually, emotionally, physically, in every way. That the sense of our shared being touches every aspect of our lives, and that there is a kind of dance that goes on intellectually, emotionally, and physically, in which one's entire body-mind is opened up to the love that is shared. Now, that you can't do with everybody. Right. You can't do it with your taxi driver or the tennis coach. You can have there are some relationships that have this potential. The love is the same, yes, but the impact that love has on the configuration of our body-mind in some rare relationships is very powerful. And usually there is and please don't ask me to explain this because I can't, there is somehow a recognition. And that was exactly the explanation I was after. Okay, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Somehow we recognize the potential. Exactly. And what that is something very mysterious, because we might also meet someone with whom we share a great deal intellectually, and emotionally and physically, and yet you still don't feel this potential. And another person who doesn't tick all the boxes, in fact some of the boxes may even conflict a little bit, and yet somehow you sense at a pre-rational level that if you go further into this relationship, every part of your body-mind will be exposed in this love. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I mean. Yes.
So maybe it has to do with how you just said the configuration of the body-mind and the configuration of the other body-mind and some mysterious process between the two?
Yes, it's a deep intuition.
Okay.
Because at the moment, very often at the moment of falling in love, you don't know much about the other person's body-mind.
That's where my question comes from. Exactly.
And of course, we're not talking about infatuation. We can see another body that we think is attractive physically. That's another thing altogether. Yes. This is something quite different, where you can meet someone, and even before you've spoken to them, you may, and very often, it is not at first accompanied by physical attraction. Sometimes it is, but very often you don't think, oh, that person is gorgeous. He or she is beautiful. No, that's not the first. That may come later, but very often it's a deeper attraction. That's not just physical attraction. That may or may not be included to begin with. It's another kind of attraction. It's a sort of recognition, and it's obviously very powerful. It's like an inner recognition that your entire body-mind wakes up in the presence of this possibility.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go back to the previous conversation. It occurred to me this recognition that we were talking about, this recognition of being in love or falling in love. When we do fall in love, very often we end up getting together with that person and spending time with them, maybe the rest of our lives or a long period of time. And during this time, what we felt, what we intuited was possible when we first saw the person, we then live out the exploration at all levels of our experience. And that inevitably, we meet places that are difficult, and then conflicts inevitably develop, and the tendency is then, of course, to move away from the relationship. But then if we go through those conflicts, the relationship gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But as I'm sure all of us, if not all of us, know, it's quite possible to be in such a relationship, a deeply loving, deeply committed relationship, and to meet somebody else with whom you feel this potential. In other words, to meet someone that you fall in love with, because you may not know hardly anything about them, but you feel this same possibility that if you were to become closer, your entire body-mind would again be touched by this love, and that can be a crisis in a relationship. And it's not something that is, it's often considered to be something that is wrong in a relationship, or a failure in a relationship, or an expression that you don't really love each other. It's not. It's perfectly natural to see someone else, or to begin to make a friendship with someone else, and to begin to sense this possibility. It's not a lack of loyalty. It's not a lack of integrity. It's not a mistake. It's not a failure. But it has implications for our relationship, of course. So if we are in a relationship that we are deeply committed to, even though there may be conflicts, and there are conflicts in all relationships, we may have to make a conscious choice. I'm going to turn away from this person because it's too powerful. The potential there is too strong, that I don't want to, I can't play with both. And sometimes you just have to make a rational decision. I'm not going to go there. Whereas to somebody else, you could love them very much. It could be a very deeply loving and platonic relationship that was not in any way threatening to our intimate relationship.